Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby.
Well, that was the joint Chinese and American Star Spangled Banner that played in China. It was an unforgettable visit for the President of the United States, and I hope that everything that they've talked about and agreed about, that they're both acting. I mean, definitely the United States is acting in good faith, and yep. I really do hope that the Chinese are acting in good faith.
I do too. And by the way, I feel like the Chinese anthem sounds more like Star Wars a little bit. But I always love hearing our anthem. But President Trump said, John, it was interesting today. He said that he and President Xi are on the same page with Iran. At least that's what he's hearing from China. So to your point, we all hope for success for the world. That would be a great thing.
Ed Cox, you know China better than all of us put together. Give us your gut feeling.
Gut feeling is the important thing is that the meeting happened and people were the two leaders of the biggest economy in the world, the second biggest economy in the world, the largest military in the world, the second largest military. They met and they talked.
And possibly
and there were no
the third largest military.
There were no wolf warriors there, which used to be China's diplomacy with respect to the United States.
By the way, John, you brought up Putin. I have to tell everybody, this is the line of the day, that Putin apparently talked to Iranian officials and said he'd be happy to take the nuclear dust from Iran. What do you think of that crazy idea? That's the last place I'd want
and turn it into nuclear bombs.
Yes, exactly.
Return them
Putin,
to our...
I mean, come on, let's act like civilized people. You know, Putin is for 20 years, he's got skirmishes.
I'd say more than a skirmish. Ukraine?
Right. Yeah, he's got...
I'd call that more than a skirmish.
Yeah, but that's a skirmish. You know why? Because the United States was weak and you had Biden as president, and he felt... Biden gave Afghanistan to China, so Putin felt that he got cheated, and he wanted to take the Ukraine.
I agree with you on the weak Biden part.
That's what really happened.
I agree with you on the weak Biden part. And he saw the troops amassing and said, come one, come all.
You know, dictators, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, dictators take advantage when they can take advantage.
Yeah, and boy, was Biden weak.
And Putin, well, he's more than weak. I think he. Well, let's move on.
I'm reading your mind.
He's more than weak, but the people around him, and someday we'll find out. We'll find out. And I scratch my head, Ed Cox, and you'll know what I'm talking about. I think China had so much crap on his son that he had to do whatever China wanted him to do. That's my opinion.
Ed? By the way, China definitely had something on the son, and I agree with John on that. Remember, he was doing business with all these Chinese officials.
Governor Patterson, any opinion? Judge Weinberg, any opinion? Before we're going to have Jake and this big stuff going on in New York, and we got Jake Novak to talk about it. And right after that, the U.S. attorney himself is coming on our show to tell us all the things that happened. But let's finish off with this discussion. Any opinion, Governor Patterson?
Well, I always had the feeling that Biden was vulnerable because of his son, and but I can't really speculate as to whether or not the Chinese were part of it.
Well, I think probably there were a lot of countries. If you look at all the people he was meeting with, Judge Weinberg, your thoughts?
Fundamentally, the Biden enterprise was a bunch of grifters small-time grifters who were making money on these side deals, and it was totally reprehensible, and they weren't fighting for national security with American national interests.
No, but it would be interesting. I hope, to John's point, that the real story will be told. Well, you guys, there's some big, huge breaking news, and this is enormous. A plot unfoiled, thank goodness, that was targeting Europe, also Canada, and Jewish sites in America. And let's go to the breaking news.
Breaking news, WABC.
And joining us now is our own Jake Novak. Jake, fill us in. This is really frightening. And thank goodness this guy was busted.
Yeah, he was busted, but not before he did already. He was a mastermind behind 18 attacks that actually had happened in Europe against U.S. and Israeli interests. So he was trying to bring that European act here to the United States. The person I'm talking about, Mohammed al-Saidi, he's actually an Iraqi man, born in Iraq, but he's working under Iran's, according to the federal complaint. He's working under Iran's control. He's basically the leader of a Hezbollah group that operates here in the United States and in Europe. And they've already hit some banking targets, the Bank of America targets in Paris. They also hit a Bank of New York building in Amsterdam. And the thing that's really frightening is that the criminal complaint says that they were planning to attack a, quote, prominent synagogue here in New York City. They're not mentioning the name of it, and I don't think we're going to find it out because I think that they want to dissuade anyone from a copycat attack. But when you think of prominent synagogues in New York, you think of Temple Emmanuel on Fifth Avenue. You think of maybe the Park Avenue Synagogue, something like that. Wouldn't it be a surprise to me? This is sadly seems like it's yet another outgrowth of these attacks on synagogues by violent protesters that we've seen lately. But I will say this, folks. Mayor Mamdani actually did issue what I think has been his best statement ever in a case like this. He did post on his X account and some other social media accounts thanking the federal prosecutors for nabbing this guy and saying that they got to have safety for Jewish groups here in the city.
Jake, I just called Jake Clayton, the United States Attorney, and right after you, Jake is standing by to call us to get more details. But thank you for staying on top of these things. I mean, it's horrible.
It is. It's scary. And you know what? Also, before we let you go, Jake, this guy, he was, as I've been seeing, the commander of this military group. I mean, this is scary, and had apparently was busted by an undercover agent, but had all these kind of co-conspirators. So it sounds like there may be more ahead.
And he had money. It sounds like he had hundreds of thousands of dollars to offer people who would carry out these attacks. This is why we've got to get to the money.
Rita, make sure I ask the U.S. Attorney who was funding him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Wow.
We'll ask Jake Clayton, the U.S. Attorney, who was funding him.
Right. Keep going, Scott Besson. Keep going in the cutting off of Iran's economy. This is what you cut up this money for this terror, we'll get a long way. That's for sure.
Jake, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jake. And is Jake Clayton on yet? All right, let's get Jake. Important things happening in New York today. And with us today is the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jake Clayton. Mr. Clayton, we have big items telling us about terrorism. You tell us.
Well, John, today in the Southern District here in Manhattan, we presented a defendant who is charged with many terrorist-related counts, but most of all, supporting terror across Europe and attempting to support terror into the United States. These are many of the acts that you have seen across Europe attacking U.S. interests, European interests, and as set forth in the complaint unsealed today, acts inside the United States that were attempted at targets motivated at our houses of worship, but most of all, motivated to instill fear and division in America. And I am so proud of the FBI. I am so proud of my prosecutors here in New York that Mr. al-Saidi is going to face justice here in New York.
Now, let me ask you something. How long do you think he's been trying to get this stuff done?
4 years. We allege 4 years, John. This is a sophisticated network using all of the tools that we read about today that allow foreign actors to engage in terror into the United States. using social media, using encrypted messages, using cryptocurrency to make payments, and using very sophisticated, coordinated messaging to radicalize others. This is something that we are tracking, and thank God that the U.S. and under President Trump, that we have devoted the resources to bring these people to justice. I can tell you that but for the respect we have on the world stage as a result of the actions of the Trump administration, this man would not be in detention in New York City.
Now, was he acting on his own? Was there any particular government that you suspect was pushing him, or how does it work?
John, as alleged, and as I always want to make clear, in America, these are only allegations. We have to prove them in a court of law. But as alleged, he's working with both Hezbollah and with the IRGC.
So it's all coming from Iran and Iran-related terrorists. And I understand.
Taking a step, yes, John. Taking a step back, what do we know? And let's not forget this: that Iran used the money that they generated from selling oil for over 40 years to sow terror and dissension in the United States and in Europe and in the Middle East. And we now know that to a certainty. And thank God we've decided that after 40 years, enough is enough.
Jay, we have so many problems in our country. Who is paying some of these protesters? I mean, some of them don't show up because they're not getting paid. They're getting paid. Any suspicion? Has the FBI or anybody been able to break down any of these people?
Well, let's take a look at some of the things that we are learning, even from the complaint that you see today. You see that foreign financed activity is directed into the United States to sow the seeds of dissension in the United States. And John, my belief is that, put this particular situation aside, it is much greater than we could have ever expected. The amount of foreign money flowing through various channels, including entities posing as nonprofits and charities and having a public purpose, that are actually conduits for dissension, is something that we need to bring to a stop.
Do we have enough troops to do that? I mean, it seems like so many people have gone through the borders and during the past 4 years before President Trump 47 got in. Do we have enough troops? Do we have enough U.S. attorneys that are dedicated to be able to do that?
We are doing so much more than we were several years ago, including using artificial intelligence tools and data. John, we need more data from these so-called charitable organizations. We need more data from our benefits distribution organizations. But with that data, we can better identify the bad actors. And I am telling you that AI is going to have a big impact on the business community. I think it's going to have an even bigger impact on the public sector, on law enforcement, on detecting benefits fraud, on identifying people who are here to do harm to Americans. And we should harness those tools as quickly as possible.
Anything else you want to tell the American people?
I want to tell the American people that at the Justice Department, at the Southern District, at the FBI, at the State Department, and all the way up to the top of the White House, to President Trump, that there are people working every day around the clock to protect them from actors like we're talking about today, to protect them from the cartels. John, just last week, we indicted a number of members of the government of Sinaloa, the state in Mexico where the Sinaloa cartel is centered. those people are clearly looking to do harm to our fellow citizens, and we're going to stop it.
Jake Clayton, United States Attorney for the Southern District. Keep fighting for America. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and God bless you. And let's save America, Mr. Clayton. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Wow, what a powerful discussion. And you guys, Judge Weinberger, as I was hearing it, just to hear about all the foreign bad actors that are trying to undermine America, that's frightening.
The fact is, you have to have, to quote Jefferson, you have to have eternal vigilance over this. This is not one-off games. This goes on and on. They have a continuing agenda to take us out. And we need people like Clayton to do the job.
And Clayton is very good.
He's superb.
And the problem is, there's probably more people like that, and somebody's paying them. This particular group was played by Iran and played by Hezbollah. What do you say? Hezbollah?
Yeah, we're saying Hezbollah, which is Iran, and
by the way,
IRGC.
they're also getting paid.
Yeah. By the way, both of them, so everybody understands, Hezbollah is Iran, and IRGC is
but
Iran.
You know what's worse? A lot of United States taxpayer money goes to these non-government organizations, which are fronts, and they come back and
against
use
us.
It.
Yes,
Against us.
For
Our own money is being used against us.
Guys, I want to cry.
Yeah, me too. Well, and you know what I want to know, John? How come we haven't cracked down on those? I mean, that really is the bombshell.
Nobody has gone to jail, and there's nobody scared. There's nobody scared, whether it's the former, people like the former FBI director that had 47.
James Comey.
Yeah,
yep.
I mean, it's just sad. Somebody has to go to jail so that they know that mayor that committed treason. What happened when you commit treason in the United States of America? You're supposed to get shot.
Well, we have a different. Depends on the state.
That's why it's a federal crime.
By the way, Brian Kimmon wants to call in.
Yep. In fact, he's dialing in right now, John, to give us a big assessment about Trump, China, and Iran.
Well, what really happened in China? Well, there's one guy that works 80 hours a week for Fox News and WABC. We have Brian Kimmade with us, and there's nobody that knows this situation better than Brian. Well, Brian, what the heck is going on? Give us your pulse of what happened in China with the president and what's happening.
So I just think it's funny how this whole thing evolved. China always prided themselves over, we're going to profile who we're dealing with, and we're going to understand what their hot buttons are and where the no-go lanes are and figure out how to push and prod. And that dates back to Nixon and Ford, and they tried to find people's weaknesses, which George W. Bush won, and and they thought, okay, Trump's easy, really simple guy. All you have to do is flower him with praise, with pageantry, and he'll be pliable. But he bought it, he thanked them, gave effusive praise, and then he hit them with the hardest tariffs imaginable. And then he ends up calling them out and breaking up relations after COVID. And they go ahead and move forward with the trade deal. And they think to themselves, I think, well, at least he's done. In 2020, we don't have to deal with this guy who's been very hard on us, calling us out on our trade practices. And then he's back. And now I think they say to themselves, yeah, he likes to be pandered to, he likes to be flattered, but he also is not going to affect what he does. And I think that is a more practical approach. While he enjoyed the pageantry, he's still a business guy that brought 30 CEOs, business people with him, when the Nixons and the Bushes, 41 and 43, would bring leading politicians, biggest names, would bring Kissinger along or anybody else. The president goes, no, I don't need those guys. In fact, I don't even need my commerce secretary. I'm going to bring my CEOs, and I'm looking to do deals. My sense is, John, they talking about the Boeing deal of 200 planes, and people say, well, it should have been 500. Well, they're making their own planes now, so 200 is a good order. I think they're going to be talking about different deals with those 30, but you don't just cut it on the spot. And he doesn't feel pressure to say, I got 9 deals on my 30 guys and Tesla's going to be expanding. I think that he is really looking to create a relationship and de-escalate. But at the same time, look at what he's doing with Venezuela. Look what he's doing with Cuba. Where was John Radcliffe yesterday? He was in Cuba offering them, letting them know that we have a case being built on Raul Castro, meaning you're about to get the Maduro treatment, and you can get $100 million in aid if you give up your government, let us, put a guy in there with some democratic principles, and that is these are all outlets for China. So the president could be nice and flatter, and I do think he likes President Xi, but what is he doing? He is actually kicking them out of Argentina, Bolivia, as well as now the latest one is Chile. And then you realize they're losing influence in all those Belt and Road programs, and at the same time, he really flat out flipped Venezuela. So now he comes to Iran, and it's a little bit harder than he thought, but at which time he talks about it and says, oh, yeah, you want to help? It's okay. Thanks for the offer. I don't need your help. And what his answer is, you must really relate to, because it's business. If I accept a favor, then I got to give a favor back. I really don't want to do that. So I think that what you had here is a guy that they understand each other. They're going to be able to talk to each other. And the reality of China's economy is not good. Here's why. They're not growing at the rate they need to grow. Here's why. 20% of their graduates are unemployed. They also have a situation where they are a decreasing deflation country. So they do not have enough people to fill their jobs. There was a single male policy. They were killing infants if their first baby was a girl because they wanted it to be a boy. And because of that, after 40 years, they have no women and they got a decreasing population. This is a declining power. And I think Trump realizes it, and I think that she realizes that Trump realizes it. So I think the ground has been set. The respect is there. He showed them respect. That's their big thing. And I think that this is going to be a very interesting next 6 months. But now the story is going to be what happens in Iran. That was the semifinals. The finals is Iran.
And you're right. I think what he knows that the most important thing to President Trump is the November elections. And it depends how China wants to play this whole situation. Do they want President Trump in as full power, or do they want the Democrats to reduce his power? And Brian, I mean, you're in the same place as I am. What's your pulse on that?
Well, I see, that's the thing. They got to watch it, because if they play a role in it, let's say decide we are not going to renew our pledge to deliver these rare magnets that they have and the other rare earth, that would send our economy into a tailspin. They play that card, and the president will know, I'm staying here for 4 years. Whether I have Congress or not, you're trying to go out of your way to make sure I don't. So then the president will have to recalculate this whole thing. My sense is that they return the visit in September. I think it's going to be relatively smooth. I think that judging by how Iran comes out, and if we could turn that around as a country, not turn that around, finish them off as a country, we watch oil and gas prices go down. And I think that you're going to see the President of the United States do something not many people thought possible, but it should have been done earlier. One of our best customers, John, I know you in the refinery business might appreciate that, is going to be China. They're going to realize there's really no downside to buying oil and gas from us, except you got to pay full price. And it's closer, and it's dependable. And you got natural gas. I mean, what we can do, and it's a quicker trip. And that would be something else that America could do good, solid business with. But I do worry, John, about the tech center. I do worry about bankers setting up in there. I just don't believe that China can be depended on to not steal our IP. I think it's in their unofficial constitution, and I do worry too about crackdowns. 1 minute they might decide to arrest 3 vice presidents at a bank because they don't like some made-up charge, and I don't think we want to get involved in that. To me, I'd let Canada go do that. I wouldn't mind increased relations, but I want to keep it on the. I like to keep it in a way that it doesn't make ourselves, it doesn't compromise our security.
Brian Kilmeade, let's keep our eyes open. These serious things, we're on the eve of success or the eve of disaster, or one or the other. Hopefully we're on the eve of success. Thank you so much, Brian, for giving us your opinion. I think you're pretty correct on everything you've said, and let's pray for America.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, John. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you.
Wow, lots of layers to that. And Ed, it was interesting what Brian was saying of like all the different things where we can do business with China, but also where we have to be careful.
And that China has huge weaknesses, the demographic weaknesses, the population is shrinking. Economics, they're in a depression, and that's a problem. Too much debt, all sorts of problems.
And
the last time their military actually fought was in 1979.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
And how do they do in that war?
Well,
they lost.
Yeah, I was going to say not well, right.
Well, on purpose, because he wanted to teach his military get out of politics and go back in the barracks and learn how to fight. And that's why he sent the most politicized units in against the North Vietnam, and they got slaughtered.
I love the history.
That's a lot of history.
Yeah, that is, Ed.
Well,
wow,
listen,
good.
I do, like I said, I know what Kilmaid says. I know what other people are saying. We have some more people coming on that's going to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to a break, and then we have
Let's take
Gordon
that break.
Chang.
And Gordon Chang is going to have his own opinion about China.
77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.
Choice Hotels get you more of what you value. Comfort Inn, it's calling your name. Save on the stay. Oh, and free waffles are yours to claim. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Everybody talking about President Trump's visit to China, and who better than Gordon Chang to give his perspective. The great Asia expert. His Twitter is Gordon G. Chang, everybody. Gordon, what did you think of the visit, and where do you think it goes from here?
Well, this visit was not canned. You know, most U.S.-China summits they're just, everything beforehand has been settled. This one, not. And give a lot of credit to President Trump for rolling the dice in a foreign place. So that's great. But we're going to find out what happened in the weeks and months to come, because it's going to take some time for the United States and China to hammer out the agreements that President Trump has talked about. One thing we do know, Rita, was that Xi Jinping was very dismissive of the United States. On Thursday, in front of the cameras and in front of the President Trump, he referred to the Thucydides trap. And that is a reference to a declining hegemon dangerously confronting a rising power. And also, Xi Jinping talked about the new era, quote unquote. That's Xi Jinping speak for basically a time when China rules the world and the U.S. is no longer on the scene. So President Trump showed great restraint. He didn't respond. But at some point, Xi Jinping, who has become very arrogant, I think we're going to have to respond not only in substance, but also rhetorically.
Oh, very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're able to catch all those little nuances, sentences. Ed Cox, his family, was the Nixon family. What do you think, Ed, of Gordon Chang's?
He's right on. That is the Thucydides trap, which was developed by a professor at Harvard. And he is citing it because he feels he's a rising power.
And we're the declining.
And we're declining power. Exactly. Right. And that was Athens and Sparta.
And some of that was like a power trip, clearly by Xi to kind of,
it was an attempt to scare us off.
And Trump did not respond to it, which was appropriate.
Yeah. So do you agree also, Gordon, to Ed's point? I mean, Trump responded, very clearly. And obviously, it doesn't sound like gave any inch on Taiwan, because the statement that the Chinese put right after that was a kind of aggressive on Taiwan. In other words, they didn't get anything on Taiwan. It's a new sheriff in town with Donald Trump.
Yeah, President Trump handled that well on Air Force One. And I believe that the administration will go forward with the $14 billion arms package to Taiwan, which is what is in question right now. Xi Jinping was extremely belligerent, and I think he's bluffing because his military right now is in no condition to invade the main island of Taiwan. So now's a good time to go forward with the arms sales, because the Chinese can't really do very much. They can huff and puff and they can get angry, but that's about it. We need to enhance deterrence. And the other thing we need to do is to show our friends and partners in the region that we're strong, because if we do that, they will stay with us. Now,
Gordon, I have a question on Iran, because they came out, the this essence was they don't want nukes. They want the Strait open. China does. And they also said that they would no longer supply military weapons to Iran. So is that like I'll sell you the Brooklyn Bridge? I mean, can we trust that?
Yeah, this is the second time Xi Jinping has directly told President Trump that China would not sell weapons to Iran. But they have after the first promise. We'll see after this promise what Beijing does. I'm sure they want the Strait of Hormuz open because they're not getting their oil. They get about 45 to 50% of their seaborne imports of oil through the Strait, and they're not getting them right now. But when it comes to nuclear weapons, we got to remember that Iran has a nuclear weapons program because of China. China has been transferring equipment, materials, and technology to Iran for a bomb program, both directly and indirectly through Pakistan. And President Trump needs to call this out because almost every day the Chinese Foreign Ministry and the propaganda organs, they blame the United States for the war. Well, there's a war because China gave the fixings for a bomb to the mullahs.
No, that's a very interesting point. Judge Weinberg.
Gordon, good to talk to you again. I'll tell you what troubles me. If Trump delays on that sale to Taiwan, the military equipment, then it's a sign of weakness on our side. That sends a message to that whole area, to the Philippines, to South Vietnam, to Australia, and that's a danger. We need to show strength, not that we're trying to accommodate them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Judge. What we have are a lot of nervous allies. They always get nervous whenever the United States talks to China. So right now we need to show them that we will stand resolute because it's not only Taiwan, it's them as well. And, for Taiwan, the most important thing is that it does prevent the Chinese Navy and Air Force from surging into the Pacific. We do not want the People's Liberation Army off the coast of Hawaii or off the coast of California. So this is important for us as well. We've got a lot of nervous allies, as I mentioned, especially Japan.
Governor Patterson.
So, Gordon, why do you think that the president chose, well, he really made a good decision when he chose not to answer that little comment.
The nuance.
Yeah, the nuance, which, they wrote up for him to make him sound like he's intelligent. But the reality is that I kind of thought that the president would be a little stronger in this whole scene than he was.
Well, I would like to have heard the president reply, but I can understand what Trump is doing. Trump has Trump style, and we're going to see how it all works out in the wash. I think it will work out well because we have far more leverage over China than China has over us. We have a lot of elites in New York and Washington who, they're just deranged over Trump, and whatever happens, they will always put everything he does in the worst possible light. I think that, I didn't want to see this trip go forward, but let's see what happens afterwards. And remember, we've got Xi Jinping coming to Washington. That puts a deadline on a lot of the things that Trump has promised. So
that's right. September, right, Gordon? September 24. Right. So, yeah, right. That puts a deadline. That's a fascinating point.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Fair enough, says the
now,
gov.
The question, I have the last question for Gordon. Is China going to cooperate with Trump with everything they talked about and shook hands about, or are they going to try to screw up a November election?
Oh, I think they'll try to screw up the November election because we know that they were very active in 2020 supporting Biden over Sanders in the Democratic Party and then supporting Biden over Trump.
Biden thanked them. Biden gave them Afghanistan. And $85 billion of equipment.
And Bagram base.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the 2024 election, thank God, the Chinese were not so active in the national election. They were very active, though, at state and local elections. And so we've got to get them out of our elections full stop. And I think in the midterms, they're going to work very hard to prevent Republicans from getting elected.
But I think the jig is up, Gordon. I think the Republicans know what's going on, and they're out there to do something. And let's wait and see because the jig is up. There's foreign money flowing in, and they're going to do what they have to do. And I understand it, but I really appreciate your opinion, because the American people have to hear your opinion too.
Thank you, Gordon.
Well, thank you, Gordon.
Let him finish.
So much, guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead,
You want
Gordon.
to say one more
just
thing?
a quick thing. In 2020, we know that China sent a lot of money into the Democratic Party campaign through ActBlue, that website. They did it through foreign parties, which is, of course, all of this is illegal. And there were small amounts of money, so nobody ever followed up. But you can trace the money from offshore. And I think the United States needs to do that, because we got to get the Chinese from stop funding candidates in our elections.
So,
like Gordon, like I said before, somebody has to go to jail. And until people start going to jail and prison, that we're not going to have an honest Washington. But thank you, Gordon Chang, for coming on. And let's keep fighting for America.
Yeah, Gordon, you got to come back on soon. To be continued. That's a hot topic.
Okay. Rita, thank you, Gordon. How about the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya Foods?
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
And here are some of the other big headlines, you guys, sponsored by Goya. The suspect in the deadly shooting of the 2 Israeli embassy staffers in Washington, D.C. last year may now face the death penalty if convicted. Elias Rodriguez stands accused of gunning down a young couple outside the Capitol Jewish Museum. The Justice Department today said that they will seek the death penalty in that case. And in Maine, officials say at least 10 people are injured after a massive fire erupted at a lumber mill. Firefighters say the blaze spread fast at Robbins Lumber after flames entered a nearby silo, causing a massive explosion. We'll keep you posted on that. And when we come back, we are going to be talking to Jason Miyares of Virginia, the former attorney general there, about this enormous case, what's been going on there with Virginia sanctuary cities, and some shocking details with one of the attorneys there, one of the Commonwealth attorneys, who essentially wants to give favor to illegal immigrants. We're going to talk about that.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
And guys, we are back here on Katz and Cosby. And boy, fireworks yesterday out the House hearing. Everybody talking about Fairfax County, Virginia. And this Commonwealth attorney who essentially wants to give favor to illegal immigrants. It was stunning. And one of the key witnesses there is the former Virginia Attorney General, who's our next guest, Jason Miyares. Mr. Attorney General, we love having you back here on the show. I want to get to just why this is so eye-opening. And it seemed like this, the Commonwealth attorney there, Steve Descano, was trying to use the biggest word salad, but it was frightening. He clearly was putting priority over illegal immigrants and really going soft on them and these crimes that have happened in Fairfax and elsewhere in Virginia.
Yeah, well, he's become the poster child of these left-wing Soros-funded prosecutors that have popped up around the country with disastrous results. Something I've been pointing out for quite some time in Virginia. Really appreciate the fact that Chairman Jordan subpoenaed him. And so for your listeners understand, really the impetus of this was Stephanie Minter, a beautiful mother in Fairfax County, was at a bus stop in Fairfax, and Abdul Jala, an illegal alien who had not 1, not 5, not 10, not 20, but 30 prior arrests, brutally stabbed her and took her life, orphaned her child, and really created a lot of national headlines because they found out that multiple times he had been just released and under prosecuted. And on Descano's website, he had literally as part of a policy that he would take in a person's immigration status if it in charging decisions. And so what we saw was a rash of charges that were previously dropped by Descano. He was under prosecuting. This person should have never been on the street. There had been previous ICE detainer. They don't honor ICE detainers in Fairfax. And so they've effectively set up a system of a catch and release program and giving more preferential treatments for illegal immigrants that are charged with a crime than an American citizen, which is why the Justice Department is now investigating them.
Yeah, thank goodness.
It was heartbreaking because Stephanie's mother was there. Cheryl, brave woman. I've become friends with her. She is a incredibly brave woman, talking about the pain that she has been through. And Toscano, of course, I think got really exposed at the hearing, and a lot of clips are circulating online and social media, but really is the exhibit A of what a criminal first victim last office looks like. And candidly, he did not handle the questioning well and got played as a fool, in my opinion.
Yeah. And in fact, one of the lines he said, guys, I couldn't believe this. He said, oh, yeah, that was what was on the website was a campaign promise. But then what I'm doing now is something different because he got busted. Judge Weinberg.
Jason, good to talk to you again. So in the Commonwealth of Virginia, is there a method to get him removed from office, this county attorney?
Well, tragically, we don't have what you think of as recall efforts as you see in other states. You could do a petition to recall, but what happens then is that it doesn't go to voters for a special elections after a requisite number of petition signatures are signed in a county. It goes to a judge. A judge has to decide whether a person has violated their oath of office. I think he clearly has. The problem is it's Fairfax County. All the judges, almost, I can't think of one that isn't. They're all very liberal, left-wing Democrats. Now, he has gotten so bad that maybe we would get lucky and get a judge with common sense, but I wouldn't count my fingers on it because ultimately you're getting whatever judge you draw at that hearing. There have been recall efforts before against him that have failed. The reality is that he has to be defeated at the ballot box. He had a Democratic primary a couple years ago, but George Soros came in and dumped in a bunch of money. So he is beatable. He is probably the most disliked politician in Fairfax County. His election will be next year. But listen, I think there's real questions right now with what the Justice Department is investigating. He has said under oath in front of the House Judiciary Committee that, in fact, he was not factoring in people's immigration status when he was making charging decisions.
Wow.
What Harmeet Dillon and them are doing right now investigating this is if it turns out that actually is a false statement, that in fact talking to former and perhaps even current members of the office to DOJ that in fact he was calculating it, then that's lying under oath. That's a lie to Congress, and that really does change, I think, a lot of the ramifications here. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
But I think it was much more than what you would think. A normal Jason, testimony. He really put
we got Rick Scott, a U.S. Senator, standing by on the call, but we want to talk about this a lot more. And just because you're not Attorney General right now, we still love you and we still want you to come on more often.
Absolutely. We'll do it again.
Thank
you. Keep up the
Jason.
great work.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Let's go to Rick Scott.
Yep, I believe he's calling in right now.
Well, Friday night, the president is on his way back. With us today is Senator Rick Scott, American businessman, governor from the great state of Florida. He helped make Florida great, and a great United States senator. Well, you're the guy in the know more so than a lot of us. Give us your opinion of what the heck is going on in China and the relationship with the president.
Well, first off, I'm glad the president got out safely, and I'm glad he was safe during the entire trip. The government of China, led by Xi, is a despicable government. They're killing American citizens by sending fentanyl here. They steal our technology. They spy on us. They've got they sent over the spy balloon. They said they've got a spy station in Cuba. They take organs from their own citizens involuntarily. I mean, this is just a despicable government. I know the president is doing his best to try to get something accomplished. I know he brought up the release of my good friend Jimmy Lai, who's been in prison for 5 years simply because he ran a newspaper in Hong Kong before she illegally took it over, a violation of international law, saying, the atrocities of China. So now he's 78 in prison. They're trying to kill him. So, look, I hope something good happens out of this. But it really, my experience with China is it doesn't matter what they say. They're never going to do it. They're not going to stop sending fentanyl into our country. They're not going to stop stealing technology. They're not. What if they agree to buy something? It's a lie. But I know the president's working hard, so I tell every American, stop buying their crap. Stop buying anything made in China. for sure stop buying their drugs. I've got a bill called the Clear Labels Act, which would let you know where drugs are made. And most of your generics, the ingredients come out of China, which you have no idea if it's safe because the FDA doesn't do enough inspections. So, as a matter of fact, there's studies that say if you buy a Chinese or Indian drug, that you have a 60% increased chance of death and hospitalization. So,
I mean, I think you're
anything from China.
I think you're 100% right on the drugs. They've even threatened us to stop shipping us antibiotics during the COVID situation, and I think it was a big mistake to allow the pharmaceutical business to go away from the United States. I mean, and we got to do what we got to do to make sure it's back in America.
We cannot be dependent on communist China for anything important. And just know, if you buy food from China, it's filthy. Like garlic. Garlic is 70% of the market is Chinese garlic. It's made in human feces and sewer water. It's black when it comes out. They bleach it white. They cut off the bad parts and send it over here and try to get it to us. So it's despicable. I think it's out of every grocery chain in this country other than Aldi's, because they don't want to sell despicable stuff to their customers other than Aldi's does.
Well, Senator, we own Gristedes and D'Agostino in New York supermarket chains, and we have started to do. We want our consumer and our listeners to eat healthier, and I think I'm going to follow what Aldi's is doing.
Yeah,
and it's just it's. The one additional item, some of the foods that they are shipping in has it has arsenic in it, it has cadmium in it, it has lead in it.
Lead. It's like cinnamon. Chinese cinnamon. Chinese cinnamon has got lead out throughout it. No, John, you're doing the right thing. Aldi's is the one doing the wrong thing. You're doing the right thing. You're trying to make sure what you're selling is safe for your customer. Aldi's is the one that doesn't care.
It's just we have to, what's killing America is, and Bobby Kennedy is right, Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Oz, because the products we eat is hurting our consumers, our listeners, and the American people in general.
Yeah, well, you're doing the right thing, because you want people to be healthy. We got to get people to eat healthy. We got to get people to exercise. That's the most important thing we can do to prevent healthcare problems. So eat healthy. Look at what you put in your body. Exercise every day, and you're going to live longer and you're going to feel better. Do not buy anything from communist China that wants to kill our way of life.
Senator Rick Scott, thank you for speaking out for America. And we have so many other things to talk about. Why don't we talk again on Sunday?
Sounds good. See you, John.
Well, Rick Scott, he's one great guy.
Fantastic.
And right now, I think KT is calling. Rita, take KT.
And joining us now is former Deputy National Security Advisor for President Trump, KT McFarland. We love her. And KT, how do you rate President Trump's trip to China, and where does it go from here vis-a-vis especially Iran?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I rate it as an A plus even. We got good stuff. We've got trade agreements. I mean, we'll see how it pans out in the future. We seemed, to me, in looking at the Iran part of it, there were three really important statements that came out, which I was not expecting. Number one, China agreed with the United States. Iran should not have nuclear weapons, number one. Number two, China agrees with the United States that the Strait of Hormuz should be opened. Number three, China agrees with the United States that Iran should not charge a tariff for passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, all of those things are great because China has not really said them before. Not that we expect China to help us militarily. We don't need the help militarily. But the fact that China agreed with us on all those 3 points against Iran, to me, is a green light for President Trump to whatever he has to do next. So, in other words, if President Trump uses military action to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, China's already agreed to it. If President Trump uses military action to go after whatever remaining nuclear facilities Iran has, China's already agreed to it. And so I think that was a big, big win. Now, will China help? You know, President Trump said maybe they will, maybe they won't. The thing is, Iran sells 90-some% of its oil to China, and so it gives China a lot of leverage over Iran. And then China needs that Middle East oil. It's not just Iran oil. It's Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, which altogether are about almost half of China's imported oil, and probably 10-15% of China's overall energy needs. So China, even though it has a reserve, it's drawing down its oil strategic reserve, but China needs that strait to open for its business and its manufacturing.
Well, I mean, there's so many things going on, so many moving parts. What I'm afraid of, KT, is that they're also put Taiwan on the front page. And right now, the markets are down because there's a little bit of concern. I thought it was a great trip. I think President Trump did a great trip with China. But the one thing, I think the reason the markets are down is because there's a lot of people worrying that China may use this to their advantage and to possibly hope that there's a Democratic Senate or a Democratic Congress. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think that China's pretty much concluded they don't want to mess with Donald Trump while he's president. So any thought that there would be military action against Taiwan, the Chinese have just seen what our capabilities were in the Strait of Hormuz and in the Persian Gulf. They don't want to mess with that. Will everybody try to wait out President Trump? Yeah, I'm sure everybody will try to wait out President Trump, and that's one of the reasons he went after the Iran nuclear weapons when he did, because he knew there wouldn't be the stomach for it or the personal courage for it later. I mean, John, I really think that we're all going to be biting our nails all summer long. But I do think that at some point in the not-too-distant future, and probably shortly, that we will open the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe we have to escort vessels through. Maybe we just provide a dome of protection through the region. But that the oil will start flowing. That'll take the pressure off of the price. That'll bring the price of gasoline down. And hopefully it happens before the summer.
KT, what I was hoping for, because I know that Putin is on his way to China. I was hoping that we'll make a solution, a world peace between Putin, Xi, and President Trump, and have create world peace and move forward. And I think our economy would go sky high, but we still don't know exactly what's going to happen, and that's where it comes out.
Well, that's the whole bite your fingernails time. We're not sure what's going to happen with Iran. I think we know where it's going to end eventually, but when is it going to happen and at what price? The Ukraine war, that's eventually going to stop. The price of oil, when it comes down, bankrupts Russia. So then Russia can't afford to fight a Ukraine war. With Taiwan, to me, the Taiwan thing is that the Chinese say, it's because China has always historically had Taiwan. They all speak Chinese. These are our people. Look, it's all about the chips. Everybody wants control of the chips that are made in Taiwan, including China. So there's so many moving factors. I mean, John, you just famously said everything's all up in the air. It's all jumping around. I mean, it is kind of crazy. I think it will be a bite your nail time, but I do think in the end the United States emerges well enough so that the Republicans continue to hold the House in the new after the midterms. I
am praying for that, because you need some common sense to go forward. And all that the Democrats want to do is, if they win the House, impeach.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which is nonsense. And the Chinese may want more confusion than solution.
Of course they do. They want confusion and they want to exploit it. And they would love Donald Trump as an adversary. The fact that they welcomed him with such respect. The Chinese, they don't do the respect thing unless they mean it. When President Obama went to China, do you remember when his plane, Air Force One, landed in Beijing and the Chinese pretended that they didn't have stairs that could go, that they were broken? So President Obama had to sit on the tarmac for an hour and then finally leave through the baggage end of the plane. And that was just a slap in the face, deliberate slap in the face to Barack Obama. They're not doing that for Donald Trump because they're not afraid of him, but they respect him. They know he's a worthy adversary. They'd like to beat him, But I think they all realize, we and the Chinese realize we had to do some deals now. We're not going to go to war with each other. We have to do some deals. And I think that looks like we've gotten those deals done. We have to open the strait. Looks like the Chinese agree with that. Taiwan, that's sort of been put on hold and nobody's talking about it. That's okay. No status, no change is actually okay. And frankly, I think that if the Republicans can hold the House in the midterms, then we're off to the races. It'll be like the period after President Reagan and after the Soviet Union collapsed. We'll have a golden age, not just for the United States, but for the world.
KT, I think this was one of the most successful trips any president can make. I pray that China and Trump and Putin keep it together, and it'll be a great year. And thank you so much for coming on. KT, we love you, and I understand. We have John Samuelson on,
absolutely,
from Transport Workers Unit.
Yep.
Rita,
big breaking news.
Breaking news, WABC.
And John, joining us now is John Samuelson. He is the international president of the Transport Workers Union. John, fill us in because everyone's worried about the Long Island Railroad potential strike.
Yes, I do believe that it's rapidly becoming more than a potential. It's going to become a reality very shortly unless Governor Hochul and the MTA start offering rational wage increases rather than what they've been doing, which is gimmicks.
So give us, when is the deadline's fast approaching, right? So to give us the sort of timetable, potentially, John.
Well, the deadline's at midnight. It's essentially at midnight. And
tonight?
I just want to make it clear that
wow.
I don't represent workers on the Long Island Railroad. I'm on the periphery of this, but because we have 45,000 workers employed at the MTA, we're directly connected to it.
Wow. So you think right now there's a potential with the 45,000 or so that you work with?
No, we don't. No, not the 45,000 that the
No. I'm not saying you work with them. I'm saying that, but obviously your connection to it, but your leaning is that in general, it's looking more likely.
I believe that it's very likely right now. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, which I believe is underreported, Governor Hochul hired a lawyer that is an infamous anti-worker lawyer, and he's the lawyer that actually triggered the 2005 transit strike in New York City. So she regurgitated him, brought him back, and he's now assigned to this Long Island Railroad negotiations. And if she's relying on him to solve this before a strike occurs, she's deluded. In fact, it's very likely that the opposite will happen. He's the kind of guy that will trigger a strike, not solve a problem, and not have a strike.
Governor Patterson, real quick.
John, what would happen if between now and midnight the union members decide not to go on strike? Wouldn't that create an opportunity to probably pick up a few pieces that you might otherwise not get?
No. All of the opportunity to do that has been exhausted. The negotiation is not about pieces. It's about economics. It's about wage increases and the failure of the MTA to even come close to what two esteemed arbitration panels recommended in presidential emergency boards under the Railway Labor Act. So Hochul has refused the findings of those two esteemed arbitration panels and is now bargaining to grossly undercut the recommendations of those federal mediation panels.
Fair enough,
that's
John.
What's going on now.
Wow.
Fair
and
enough.
How many people could it affect? How many commuters? Just real quick, John.
At least 400,000. It's everybody on Long Island, and then.
Well, nobody better go to Hamptons if you're preparing to take the train back.
Yeah, I would say that's a no-go.
I'll tell
Ain't
Todd.
too many Long Island Railroad workers worried about going to the Hamptons, though, but I don't think anybody's going to get there.
Well, thank you, John Samuelson. Keep us informed. Rita's on from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Please call into her.
Yeah, that'd be great,
if there's
John.
any updates.
Please do, John.
That'd be great. Let's go Mets.
Thank you so much. Let's go Mets.
And we got a break, you guys.
Let's take a break, and we'll be right back with
Joe Concha.
Joe Concha.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we're back here on Katz and Cosby. Let's go to Joe Concha. And Joe, oh my goodness, Kamala Harris, we're all talking about this coming out with her crazy statements. Fill everybody in because you just can't make it up.
I mean, look, she is not going to run to the middle this time when she runs for president, guys. She's going hard left because she has to get the nomination first. It's not going to be handed to her like it was in 2024. And this is what Democrats are talking about openly and brazenly, that we're going to expand the Supreme Court to look like the Yankees roster. We are going to eliminate the Electoral College because we're never going to win in that again because some of these states are now becoming more and more red. And then obviously other things like impeaching Supreme Court justices, adding 2 states to get 4 Democratic senators. This is what Democrats are running on because they don't have solutions. They just want to blow the whole thing up and watch the world burn, it appears at this point, and they're not shy about it.
You know, one of the things she talked about, like you mentioned, the Electoral College, like she wants to blow the whole thing up as if that's going to change. I mean, she lost the popular vote, too, not just the electoral vote, Ed Cox. She lost the popular vote. How's that going to change any outcome? But it just shows they're almost willing to do anything with a straight face that she's saying it out there. It scares me. I mean, is there anything more extreme than what they're even talking about doing?
No, not at all. This ain't your daddy's donkeys anymore, guys. This is not the days of Bill Clinton working with Newt Gingrich and Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan having a drink after work to try to hammer things out. This is all-out war, and Democrats will stop at nothing until they fundamentally change this country forever, where they could stay in power in perpetuity. That's what they want, and there is no more compromise. These are the battle lines that are drawn. But again, if it's Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance or both running for president, Kamala Harris may lose 51 states, which is mathematically impossible.
Yeah. Joe Concha, I'll be listening to you at 9 o'clock tonight and on 11 o'clock on Sunday on WABCRadio.com and worldwide on your iPhone 77 WABC. Thank you for coming on and have a good evening.
And Joe,
what do we all stand for?
What do we stand for, Joe?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
51 states.
51 states.
51 states. And let's join Mark Levin in progress.
Thanks for listening to Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. You can hear Katz and Cosby weekdays at 5. It's the 5 o'clock show on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?